Welcome back. Rob Port in for Jay Thomas. This, we're in sort of a dead zone for news, Mike. I'll admit it.
Not a great week for news.
Not a lot going on, but maybe that's all right. It's all right that everybody take a break, take a deep breath, spend some time with family, spend some time reflecting on the year that was, preparing for the year that's going to be.
You know what you have to do, Rob? You have to make yourself the news somehow this week.
I gotta make myself the news.
Figure out a way to make yourself the news.
I may have some interesting news coming up, but I'm not going to be announcing it this week.
All right.
Next week.
See, good tease right there.
There we go. Yeah, that's pretty good. Hey, Mike, thank you. It's almost like we planned it. Although we didn't. We totally didn't. And that was completely that was completely spontaneous competence right there.
Yeah, absolutely. Very nice.
Every once in a while, at least for me, you're competent all the time. I'm competent. I'm competent spontaneously every once in a while. Randomly. 701-293-9000 is your local call-in number, 888-970-9329. You can tweet me at Rob Port. You can email me, talk@wday.com. My guest right now is North Dakota State Representative Rick Becker. He represents the Bismarck area. He's also one of two Republican candidates for the office of governor. The other, of course, is Attorney General Wayne Stenjum. Representative Becker was the first into the race, and he is my guest right now. And Rick, how's it going?
That's going real well, Rob.
Did you have a good holiday?
Yeah, it was pretty relaxing, so I can't complain. How about you?
Pretty good. Santa bring everything you wanted?
Not quite up, but cool.
Yeah, well, you can't ever get everything, right? You don't always get what you want.
I asked Santa for the victory at the state convention, but he said I have to wait.
Yeah.
It happens in April.
Yeah. You're not going to get an early Christmas present on that. But you never know.
No.
You never know. You work hard, good things can happen sometimes. Let me ask you about this, because we spent the last hour talking about this. Obviously, the issue with refugee resettlement in the state, the issues with refugees in general. I think it's pertinent for the governor's race with Governor Jack Dalrymple having basically made an announcement about Syrian refugees. Let me ask you about that. What did you make of Governor Jack Dalrymple's announcement about Syrian refugees?
Well, Rob, I wasn't privy to the conversation for the past hour. Are you talking about a statement he made quite some time ago when it was initially coming up?
Yeah, that's well, basically when he announced that we had to pause Syrian refugee resettlement. I mean, what was your take on that?
Well, I mean, initially, I believe that the governor's take was a fairly neutral stance, and then there was much more interest and more governors jumping on, and then he came out to suggest that perhaps having a pause would be appropriate. And I agree with that. When we're talking about, there's a big difference between what Donald Trump is saying, where you just say no to all Muslims, and taking more of a focused approach and say, well, okay, there's a bunch of refugees coming out of an extremely volatile area, and there are highly likely, and as we know, there are at least some terrorists embedded within the refugees, and we have no proper way to vet them. So perhaps we need to put a pause on it and have a moratorium. And but more than that, Rob, and you may have discussed it just recently, is this gets to be an argument about who we are as Americans and whether we are going to offer humanitarian aid. And my position on that is that having them come here is not the only means of providing humanitarian aid. From my understanding, these people want to get out of their war-ravaged areas. They just don't want to be killed. They want to have a decent life for their family. They're not looking for an entirely different culture. They haven't necessarily embraced Western civilization and a representative democracy. They're not entirely interested in learning English. They have their own language. So I'm not sure that it isn't even actually more humanitarian to try and provide assistance to them in their region with their neighboring countries. And so I think putting in a moratorium is a very reasonable idea.
Yeah, and some of that is obviously foreign policy that is going to be well beyond the scope of the governor of North Dakota. So we won't delve into that. But what about refugee resettlement? Obviously, this has been a very hot debate in Fargo. Although where most of the refugee resettlement in North Dakota happens with Lutheran Social Services. Obviously, some happens at Grand Forks as well. Some also in Bismarck. Do you think that's handled appropriately? Should the state do more? Do we have enough oversight? I mean, what are your feelings about that?
Well, I'm not entirely satisfied in any way with how we're handling it now. So if we look more at, okay, what's really happening in the state, number one, I think that the state should take back control of the program. You know better than anyone what's happened and what the consequences are, and we've given it over to Lutheran Social Services. And I think that there is a situation where perhaps an entity which is deriving its income from both federal and state funds can play both sides. And not that they're doing anything improper, but it's the natural course of things. They get money for resettling people within the state. They run the program, and then the state also gives them a bunch of money on top of that with no true oversight or transparency. And there are really significant consequences, especially for the people already living in the areas in which the refugees are being resettled. And I think the state should take control back, and I think we should look at exactly what are the actual effects in the communities from resettling the refugees here. What are the effects on the children in the schools where the refugees are trying to learn English as a second language, and they're already embedded with the other students? How is it possible that the other students' education isn't falling secondary to trying to catch up the other kids? And then there are costs to the people in, say, Fargo and Grand Forks. Tremendous costs. Shouldn't they have a say on how much of their resources are going to go to a refugee resettlement program? I think that we need to take a look at this, but first, before we can even assess really what the whole situation is, we have to have transparency and realize what the costs are of the program to the state and to the cities.
That's a great. I agree with you 100%. I think those are all valid concerns and valid areas for exploration and policy. Moving on a little bit. I mean, obviously you've spent some time campaigning now. You announced your campaign some time ago. You've been, I'm sure, visiting with delegates, visiting with people in different parts of the state. What are you hearing from people? I mean, what are people concerned about?
Well, I hear three things over and over, and they include, number one, the budget and spending, and of course what they're translating is the concerns for the decreased revenue. Everyone is aware of how much spending has been increased over the past several years. Now that the revenue is down so much, people are concerned, okay, what's going to happen? How are we going to get through this? And they just want to have some idea that it will be taken care of in a proper manner. The second thing is people are still very riled up about property taxes, and rightfully so. They're looking for some type of resolution to what they see as a huge burden on them. And then thirdly, there's still a lot of concern about education, both in K-12 and in higher ed, but primarily I hear the most vocal concerns with regarding Smarter Balanced and Common Core in the K-12 schools.
Talking about rolling back property taxes, I mean, to me, I'm just gobsmacked that after everything that we've done, probably going back all the way to the 2007 session in terms of, for a while we were giving an income tax credit for property taxes. Then we started buying down property taxes. This last session, you could probably say, but what was it? Something like $500 million in property tax buy downs,
yep.
That we approved, something in that ballpark. How in the world can this still be an issue? I mean, how is it that we have done all of this? And also, how concerned are you that all that money that we've put into buying down property taxes is going to come back and bite us, trying to find room for it in the budget now that revenues are falling off?
Well, it's a huge problem. And the reason it's still a problem after everything that we've done is what we did was well-intentioned, but it wasn't the proper route. What we did is subsidized the local subs, the counties and cities. And that never works. And so they backfilled like they would be expected to do. And so the state tried to give the taxpayers a break on their property taxes, but it never actually worked out that way because of the backfilling. And so the other thing is the state did that well-intentioned tax break based on a commodity, based on oil, of course. And so now oil's down, and now it's going to be very hard to keep doing that. And I think that probably what would have been better to do would be to look at actual reform, not just buy downs. You know, there's a mentality of, oh, there's a problem, throw money at it. But if we would look at true reform, and we did, I'm not trying to throw we as a legislature under the bus, but we did some reforms, we attempted some transparency efforts, but more reform in the manner of, say, what I'd like to see happen is a cap on valuations per year. Look at using the CPI, Consumer Price Index, or say a 2.5%, whichever is lower is the amount that your value, the value of your property can go up, not more than that. You know, it's kind of a variation of California's Prop 13 several years ago. And I'd also like to see a cap on the amount that the levy can be increased without taking it to a vote by the people in the general election. You know, we can try and put some controls on what the subs are doing without actually taking their control away, because it's not happening on its own. And this really is, for the most part, a local sub issue. And then the state, instead of saying, look, we can do some reforms, but you're going to have to take it to your city and county commissioners, tried to intervene, and it just hasn't worked.
I want to talk more about that issue specifically after the break. I got to go to a break. You're good to hang out, Rick?
Sure.
All right. Rick Becker, State Representative Rick Becker, running for governor. Your phone call, 701-293-9000, 888-970-9329 is a toll-free number. You can tweet me at Rob Port or email talk@wday.com. We'll be back. Don't go away.
Tonight on WDAY 6 News at 6, a Harwood family is safe tonight after an early morning fire destroyed their home. Reporter Catherine Ross tells us how someone in the right place at the right time helped with the rescue. Another house fire in Great Bend, North Dakota overnight, the family narrowly escaping, and a much-anticipated downtown Fargo ice rink Sod's warming house delivered today. We'll tell you when you can expect the rink to officially open. Those stories and more tonight on WDAY 6 News at 6.
Healthy Systems USA hopes that the warmth and love that is all around us this holiday season will fill your heart with joy. Hi, I'm Darren with Healthy Systems USA, hoping your life will be full of health, happiness, and prosperity. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
There is one muscle in your body that works harder than all the rest. Your heart is essential to your life, and it deserves to be cared for by a team who knows it best. At Sanford Heart, our team can do it all. From screening and prevention to life-saving surgical interventions and rehabilitation, we are the premier destination for heart care. We have the team, the tools, and the training to give your heart top-notch care every time. Learn more at heart.sanfordhealth.org.
Celebrate New Year's Eve at the Bomb Shelter with unlimited drinks all night. Unlimited drinks all night. With your paid cover, enjoy access to the entire bar and signature bomb shots offered by the Bomb Shelter. Enjoy beats and bubbly all night with music from DJ Roscoe and a complimentary champagne toast provided at midnight. Doors open at 9 p.m. $30 cover per person, which includes all of your drinks all night. Bring in 2016 with unlimited drinks all night at the Bomb Shelter.
Happy New Year!
It's time to stock up at Mills Fleet Farm. Isobar Extreme Action Windshield Wash, $1.95 a gallon. Stay warm with grabber, hand, or toe warmers, 89 cents a pack. Buy select sizes of Science Diet or Hill's Ideal Balanced Pet Food. Get a $10 gift card. KT Wild Bird Food is on sale. Need snacks? 4 jars of Fleet Farm peanuts, $7. And don't forget Love's Diapers, $15.49 during Mills Fleet Farm stock-up sale.
Love it!
The 970 WDAY mobile app, making your smartphone smarter.
Welcome back, Rob Port, sitting in for Jay Thomas today. My guest right now is State Representative Rick Berg. He's Rick Becker. Wrong Rick. Wrong. Not Rick. Not the Rick Berg who was in the House and then ran for the United States House. No, Rick Becker, who is from Bismarck, who is also a state representative, but he's running for governor. Sorry about that, Rick. I got the wrong Rick.
That's all right.
I want to talk to you just a little bit more about property taxes, because one of the laws that just went into effect last week over kind of the holiday break was a transparency law. And essentially it was a fix. In 2013, legislature passed a law that basically said if you're going to raise property taxes on somebody's property, you have to notify them. And the local governments essentially found a loophole where they were able to say, well, if we're going to raise property taxes on a broad category of property, for instance, agriculture property or residential property, something like that, then we don't have to send out a notice. And so the 2015 legislature fixed that. And they said, oh no, you definitely have to send out a notice even if it's on a broad category. And to me, so much of what has driven this problem with property taxes are local governments sort of abdicating their responsibilities to control spending and taxation, blaming the legislature for it. And then we have situations like this where even when it comes down to being accountable to voters, just notifying people, hey, there's a pending tax increase, here's a hearing where you can come and talk about it, and we can have a debate, and sort of inviting citizens. I mean, you want to talk about why people have been excuse my French, pissed off about property taxes for a decade now. I think it's this attitude where local governments aren't inviting them in the door. I mean, even the transparency issue, the legislature has to come in and say, local governments, you have to notify people when you're going to raise their taxes. I'm glad the legislature did what they did. I'm very saddened that the legislature had to do it.
Yep. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. The locals need to be held accountable. And in fact, the legislature tried to do some variation of a sunshine law as well. And because any of these local subs or even state agencies, they're very reluctant to do anything that requires more accountability, whether they're good or bad, but no one wants to take that extra step. And so with big lobbying efforts, that bill was killed. That would have required I forget what it was, online, I think, a situation where people could see easily, just boom, boom. What are
that was
they've been spent on?
That was Representative Thorson's bill, and it would have actually it started out where they would have reported local spending because we have an existing online searchable database of state spending now. It would have included local spending in that, and then I think it got amended because they had all sorts of objections to that. And I think the final version of the bill, they would maybe just put a PDF of their register, or their spending register, or whatever, up on. Just put it online, just a PDF, and even that got killed. So I mean, very, very frustrating that went down.
Yeah, it is, and that's the issue, is that unfortunately the legislature tried to take it on as its own responsibility to try and do right by the citizens of North Dakota. And what we really need to do is put the onus back on the subs. The state can try and implement reforms, and as I mentioned earlier, we should. But the onus is back on the subs, and if people aren't happy, they need to take that to the polling booth and vote in the people that aren't going to continually raise taxes.
I always laugh because when we talk about changing local property taxes, we hear shouts of local control, but yet when it comes to being accountable for property taxes go up, we get all sorts of finger pointing at the state. It's a little ironic. I want to sneak in Stephen, and by the way, if you want to call in, 701-293-9000, 888-970-9329. Stephen, welcome to the program. What's up?
Yeah, why don't we do like California does? And why don't we just do like their Prop 8, where the only time they can raise their property taxes is when your property sells, because there's so much ambiguity in the current system that I own a condo in one building and my good friend owns one in the same building, one floor underneath me, exactly the same condos. We both put new carpet in the same time, everything. And his is assessed $3,000 less than mine. How can that be? You know?
So basically, it would be a situation where the value of your home is whatever it last sold for. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and then it just stays there till it sells again. We can't, because now they can get us on both sides of the equation.
I mean,
okay, you don't want to raise the mills, then we're just going to raise the property value. That's what they're doing right now, by the way.
Yeah. Thanks for the call, Stephen. Rick, I like that idea in concept. I got to think that for taxing areas where maybe there's not a lot of property turnover, that might be problematic.
Well, right, and that's why he's at Prop 8. I think it's Prop 13. I don't think that it works very well to say absolutely no value increases because it skews the market somewhat. And so if you suggest instead that the valuations can only go up by either CPI or some specific amount that you've defined, the lesser of the two, what you're going to do is ensure that the people aren't being raked over the coals with property values. Which is, we call that a stealth tax because the subs increase your value and then say that they haven't increased your taxes when in fact you're paying a lot more in taxes. And I can tell you, Rob, I've got a little old building in downtown Bismarck. In the last 2 years, it went up 38%. My value did, and it was an old rundown building, and that valuation increase happened before I did my improvements on it. And then so I called about it, and it's a very subjective thing, and it's not right, and the rest of North Dakota is feeling it as much or more than I am.
Do you? Because you're just talking about Stephen's idea would maybe distort the market. If we cap valuations, does that hold property values down for the market? Where people buying and selling homes. I mean, is that do we run into a situation where we have an oil boom comes on, a house sells for significantly more than it's assessed at? Does the assessed value, can it catch up? Are we going to distort the market because the assessed values are going to be way off if we have a cap in place?
Well, I don't think that's necessarily true because I don't think that the assessed value has to really be tied to a market value. You can have a market that's way overpriced temporarily until we find an equilibrium, but that should in no way reflect that the taxes should suddenly increase dramatically. And so I think that if you have a sort of a disconnection between the two, that's perfectly fine. One does not need to catch up with the other. You can have a bubble in housing, and that doesn't mean that we should have a concomitant bubble with taxes.
Well, yeah, I guess that makes a lot of sense. Any plans? I mean, looking ahead here, talking about the state's budget, and real quickly, we got to go to a break, and hopefully, can you hold through the break again? Maybe we'll just go take the break now.
No, that's fine. I can hold through.
Let's do that. That'll be a lot easier. I don't wanna cut you off or have you not be able to give a full answer or feel rushed or whatever when I'm asking you questions. All right. If you want to call in your comments or questions, Representative Rick Becker on the program. He's running for governor. 701-293-9000, 888-970-9329. Love to take your calls. More straight ahead. Don't go away.
Early, so are we. Start your day at 4 a.m. with Jim Bohannon as he hosts America in the Morning. Get 2 full hours of local news, weather, and sports with first news from 5 to 7. Then it's AM Fargo-Moorhead with Mike Capel for entertaining talk, news, weather, sports, and traffic to get you to work and on with your day. America in the Morning at 4. First news 5 to 7. And AM Fargo-Moorhead with Mike Capel. Everything you need to start your day is heard here. News Talk 970 WDAY.
Celebrate New Year's Eve at the Bomb Shelter with unlimited drinks all night. Unlimited drinks all night. With your paid cover, enjoy access to the entire bar and signature bomb shots offered by the Bomb Shelter. Enjoy beats and bubbly all night with music from DJ Roscoe and a complimentary champagne toast provided at midnight. Doors open at 9 p.m. $30 cover per person, which includes all of your drinks all night. Bring in 2016 with unlimited drinks all night at the Bomb Shelter.
Happy New Year! 970 WDAY Storm Tracker weather.
Good afternoon, everyone. A lot more cloud cover across the area today. Like yesterday, we had plenty of sunshine and some pretty cold temperatures. Today, a little bit better, but still cloudy with a temperature around 19 degrees right now. But it is going to get better by the end of the week. For the next few days, we are looking at that cloud cover continuing and some pretty chilly weather as well. We are also looking at a chance for a few snow showers coming in tonight into Tuesday and Wednesday. I don't expect that to amount to really anything because we are also seeing some drier air moving in, so that's going to keep most of the snow down to our south across southern Minnesota into Iowa. A major storm taking shape down there. They are likely to see some pretty significant snowfall. So if you're traveling down that way towards Sioux Falls, Minneapolis, even down towards Des Moines, likely to encounter some pretty heavy snowfall. Not going to see that here, just a few snow showers for the next few days. We will see highs into the teens tomorrow. 19 degrees with a north wind at 5 to 15 miles per hour. Then down to about 17 on Wednesday and 16 on Thursday. But it does get better. Starting off 2016, we'll be seeing sunshine and back to 23 on Friday and looking better by the weekend. Sunshine continues into Saturday and Sunday, up to 28 on Saturday. Could be close to 30 as well, and then we will see highs into the 20s above average going into the start of the next work week. For right now in Fargo-Moorhead, 19 degrees with an east wind at 10. I'm meteorologist Aaron White on your official weather station, 970 WDAY.
Tip Masters Motorsports and Off-Road says there's no time like the holidays to personalize your automotive lifestyle. And you can start with the remote car starter from CompuStart. Check out the Pro T11, the newest and most powerful remote start with a range of up to 3 miles. And it's the toughest two-way remote in the industry. CompuStart also offers remote starts for manual transmissions and diesel engines that are 100% fail-safe. And ask about the Drone Mobile, the smartphone app designed to meet all your GPS tracking, remote start, and security needs. And it's compatible with any vehicle.
Tim Masters Motorsports is also the place where you can build the vehicle of your dreams with auto, truck, and off-road accessories. Add functionality and customize your vehicle's look and feel with lift kits, wheels and tires, LED lighting, bed covers, winches, bumpers, and much more. Tint Masters Motorsports has been building their reputation for quality parts and excellent service since 1995, with 6 locations in North Dakota and Minnesota. Visit TintMastersMotorsports.com. Best wishes for the holidays and a very happy new year from Tint Masters Motorsports of Fargo.
With New Year's right around the corner, is your resolution to pay off debt? Don't wait until New Year's. At United Savings Credit Union, we make debt consolidation easy. That's right, I said easy. What's not easy is paying on multiple credit cards to multiple financials with different interest rates and due dates. Make one affordable payment to United Savings Credit Union and you are set. From consolidating debt to financial counseling and everything in between, let the money team help you. Call us at 701-235-2832 or visit unitedsavingscu.org. Member NCUA.
We paid less for our Craftmatic today than we did 20 years ago.
If you're still searching for the perfect solution to a good night's sleep, call now for prices and free information on today's Craftmatic adjustable beds. And then decide when you see how little they cost. Rated #1 by consumers nationwide on ConsumerAffairs.com. Craftmatic beds come in all mattress types, including cool gel memory foam for up to 50% less than today's leading memory foam brand. Enjoy temporary relief of low back pain, poor circulation, nighttime heartburn, mild arthritis. You'll sleep better in a Craftmatic adjustable bed. So if you're still searching for the perfect solution to a good night's sleep, call now for prices and information. And then decide when you see how little they cost. Discover Craftmatic for less, up to 50% less than today's leading memory foam brand.
Call 1-800-969-5886. That's 1-800-969-5886. Call 1-800-969-5886. Call now.
This is News Talk 970 WDAY.
Welcome back. Rob Ported for Jay Thomas. 701-293-9000 is your local call-in number. 888-970-9329 is the toll-free number. You can email me too, talk@wday.com. I got a couple more questions for Representative Rick Becker. He is state representative out of Bismarck, also running for governor. Before I get to him, we have a caller holding as well. Steve, thanks for waiting. What's up?
Okay. First of all, I was a city assessor in North Dakota for 30 years. I quit last year. Okay, I quit this summer, actually. But for the entire time I was a city assessor, we were supposed to notify anyone if their property value went up before more than 10% or $3,000. That was the law. The law also still states that it has to be based on market value. Your tax assessment should be based on market value. And North Dakota's been very profitable, very prosperous the last few years, so property values are going up, and that's there's no way around that. The mill rates really should be cut back at the local level. They need to control their spending, but there is no happy way to do the tax assessment.
What do you think, Stephen, when Representative Becker said basically he wouldn't mind, I guess if somebody has experience doing this, he wouldn't necessarily mind decoupling the tax assessed value from the market value and saying that these two don't necessarily have to have any bearing on each other? What's your reaction to that as somebody who obviously has a great deal of experience doing this?
My reaction to it is I don't think it would work. Because there'd still be people, there could be two houses side by side in the same city, same size house, same type of house, and one house could sell, and right now it could sell for $30,000 more than it was assessed very easily, and the house next door, if you didn't raise its price, didn't raise its assessment, they'd wind up paying, two people wind up paying different tax amounts, and the property tax is supposed to be an equal tax. And I believe it's also it might be part of the Constitution, but I know it's part of the Century Code, that that assessments have to be based on market value.
Representative Becker, your response.
Well, I think that the idea I just proposed will still work. Number one, the aspect of it being according to market value, that would be at the time of the initial purchase. And so that's where it's set. And from that point forward, it does continue to increase on a yearly basis, but it's limited according to CPI or, say, 2.5 or 3%. Now, the caller is correct in that sometime down the road after this would be implemented, you could have two identical houses side by side. And if one is purchased, say, this year, and the one next to it hasn't been purchased for the 10 years prior, then the new one is going to have a higher tax. The reason that still is perfectly fine is when a person buys a house and they understand what the taxes and specials are on the house, they can be guaranteed, according to state law, if this were to come into effect, that the taxes were going to still be within the realm of what's reasonable at the time that they purchased the house. The taxes won't be jacked up on them unexpectedly and eventually cause the house to become too expensive. The person buying the house, the newer couple buying the house that's side by side, they'll be paying more in tax, but they understand what they are doing. They're buying the house with a specific amount of tax, and it's up to them to decide whether they can afford that. And that's going to play into what the market value is for the home as well. So it's fair in the sense that anyone who purchases a home is going to be paying tax on the market value of the home at the time of the purchase.
Steve, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Going to move on to Simon. You're on. What's up?
Hey, Rob. I just got a little point of view and a little quick question, and then I'll just hang up.
Sure.
I get my tax statements. I have some agricultural property, and that's going up all the time because, they had some real good farm years, and everybody, people bought land, went crazy on the prices, and also on I have a residential stuff. But here's the deal. I look on that deal, and most of the money is going for the schools. And, I don't have any children using the schools or anything, and there's a lot of out-of-state people, that have lots of properties, and they're paying all that money to the schools. Then I got the person down the street, they've got 15 kids that don't own anything, they're not paying out anything for the schools, and then I'll just let you guys hammer it out and see what you think.
Yeah, well, I guess the rent versus own thing, I've always kind of felt that renters pay the property tax built into the rent, right? I mean, if the property owner didn't have to pay the property tax, then rents would be lower, right?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, Simon's response, though, his concern that, the property tax is sort of an unequal tax, though. It's not really an equal tax, I guess. It was his point.
Sure, that it unfairly burdens people who don't have kids in school or who have already paid for the kids to go through school, and that's an overall kind of like, okay, how do we want to run our state and what do we want our society to be? And I mean, he makes a good point. We're not going to get a sudden reversal of how we're doing things. I think that this could. You want to talk about something else, I suspect, but this could segue into some of the other issues that I have with education. and trying to bring the cost down and trying to bring
Sure.
more parent choice into education.
Well, let's
Common Schools Trust Fund to help pay for some of the education as well, to take the burden off of property tax for education.
Yeah, well, let's talk more about that, because that was one of the areas you said that you've been hearing a lot from voters about, is education. What specifically have you been hearing, and what would you do to address the concerns that you're hearing?
Well, I think more and more people are becoming a bit dismayed and frustrated with what they're seeing in the schools, in the school system, and they feel helpless. And Common Core got a lot of press, and it got a lot of bad press, and frankly, I think rightfully so. And so there are a few things. Number one, parents are concerned that they have lost control, and that in essence, what their kids are being taught is being determined by outside forces. And I frankly agree with that. North Dakota entered the Smarter Balance Consortium in 2010, and that ties us to the Common Core standards. And those standards are determined by a group of intelligentsia out in California. So we really have given up our control. Now, sometimes people want to make it an argument about the standards themselves, and that's not my argument. It could be. I think we can have much better standards than those that I've read in Common Core. But the point is that Smarter Balance, that's tying us in with a complete loss of control with what the standards are. Smarter Balance also ties us into testing that's completely aligned with the standards and forces the teachers to teach to the test, and therefore essentially dictates the curriculum. So it's all about control. So I want to bring control back to the state, back to the parents and the teachers, get us out of Smarter Balance so we can change not only our testing, but the standards themselves. The second part is bringing control back to the parents, and that has to do with more of school choice. There are 5 states, I believe, already that have variations of an education savings account. So, for instance, the money that the state pays for a student, about 90% of that would go on to, let's say, a debit card for the parents. Now, the parents could use the money on that debit card for public school, for online courses, for private school, for Catholic or Christian school, for homeschooling supplies. They can use it for whatever they want as long as it's for education, kind of like the 529 for college. And that would give the parents so much control and empower them to be able to really define and offer their own children the best education possible. It would also make things more competitive and bring costs down. So I think it's kind of it's sort of multiple benefits to doing this kind of a program.
Certainly interesting, and I like the idea of school choice, and I think a lot of people argue that school choice in a state like North Dakota, where we have a lot of places where there aren't a lot of choices for schools, frankly. It's not like Los Angeles, where there's all sorts of different schools that you could potentially take your kids to. In most North Dakota communities, it's very limited. What do you say to that argument against school choice in North Dakota?
Well, I think that's a pretty poor argument. So we say that there are areas in the state where choices are limited, therefore all areas of the state should have no choice. I don't even really know how to attack that too directly, except to say that it's erroneous. What we should do is provide the maximal amount of choice possible, regardless of where a child is in North Dakota. And actually, it doesn't matter if you're in the most rural area of the state. You still have opportunities for homeschool and for online school. It doesn't matter if you don't have a Montessori or a Catholic school down the road. There are other options, and so frankly, everyone with technology now does have a choice.
Let's switch gears here. Just a few minutes left. 701-293-9000, 888-970-9329. Let's talk about energy. Our current governor has come under a lot of fire. Some people accusing him of being too friendly with the oil and gas industry. What do you make of that criticism? Are there things that you would have done differently had you been governor of North Dakota during this recent oil boom?
Well, I don't know what to make of the too friendly comment. There's this aspect of oil being a golden goose for North Dakota, and so some people want to try and wring its neck to get all the golden coins out right away, and of course that's not going to work long term. So this wanting us to have that 1.5% decrease in the extraction. I was completely in favor of that, and getting rid of the trigger. That was really smart. We had to get rid of the trigger. This idea that we're running essentially our whole state economy on commodities, oil and agriculture and coal, and that we are going to just really exacerbate the risk of that by having triggers on is crazy. So we take the triggers out, and at least we reduce some of our big risk. So I think that was smart. As far as flaring, things like that, I think there's only so much you can do. They've decreased flaring substantially, and you really can't, if there's nowhere to send the gas, it's going to be pretty hard to meet mandates that are impossible to meet. But the thing that's mostly at the forefront, I think, is the Clean Power Plan. That's the ticket that scares me most, and I think, frankly, the state can do most about right now. So I'd like to see the governor take a very hard stance on that. And the Attorney General has filed a suit, and we should go forward with that. I think we should look long and hard at whether we want to start implementing a plan. I think we need to do the 2-year extension, hold things off as much as possible, and really buy into the whole anti-commandeering approach, to where we say that the EPA just does not have any right to do this, and we refuse to accede to that notion.
Rick, thank you so much for your time. Certainly appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you. That's for State Representative Rick Becker, of course, running for governor. His opponent, Wayne Stengen. And interesting comments as always. More to come straight ahead. Rob Port in for Jay Thomas. Don't go away.